Okay, it is 5:15, so let me start this lecture. I'm Jeshudasan. Okay, I'm going to speak to you all on the environment, some of the resources that we have around the country, and the cultural heritage, etc. So let me go to the overview of the lecture. Um, Okay, this is the overview of the topics that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the uh, Sri Lanka maritime boundaries, exclusive economic zone, the resources within the territorial waters. That is one aspect that I'm going to cover. I'm also going to cover the history, ancient heritage, then the vandalism, preservation, etc. Uh, the next part that would be over exploitation of resources. That is the other aspect I intend to cover in this lecture. Now, this is relatively a small lecture covering only a vast area, but with only few points. It is important that those who are sitting for this paper should do a wide reading to know much beyond the lecture that I'm going to cover. Let's see. Um, Screen. All right. Now, when we talk about maritime, keep scrolling. Okay, when we talk about maritime boundaries, Sri Lanka is very close proximity to India, and there was a UN charter based on that one, and then there had been actually the charter was December 10, 1982, Article 17 of the convention. The maritime boundaries and exclusive economic zone were established, and then comes Sri Lanka being my movement of this one is very slow. Okay, Sri Lanka being very close proximity to India, we definitely have ongoing disputes with people, fishermen crossing over. Boundary was established, between Sri Lanka and India in 1974 as well as 1976 during the time of Simao Bandaranaike's government. This agreement was established between Sri Lanka and India. So we have a boundary which always, you see in the paper many violations of being breached, actually, the boundary being breached. Anyway, apart from that, we have an agreement with India, and we have established the boundaries, the maritime boundaries with India. Right. Now let's see the different kind of zones in the water, in the sea around us. We being an island, there's sea. You will see we have called it the internal waters, and which is the inland waters. And Sri Lanka has full sovereignty over the internal waters as much as the land. Now, when it comes to the sea, okay, the first 12 nautical miles, you can see the first 12 nautical miles is known as territorial water or territorial sea, is our jurisdiction or anything. May let it be jurisdictions or the way that we use the resources is same as that of the land. It means Sri Lanka has full sovereignty over the next 12 nautical miles. Everything of the next 12 miles is considered something similar to that of a land. So our rights over that next 12 nautical miles is similar to that of the land. So we immediately have 12 nautical miles, roughly 22 kilometers around us. So it makes our area much larger immediately. Though we call ourselves a small country, immediately it makes our area larger. Now comes the next 12 nautical miles. Okay, the first 12 nautical miles we call the territorial water. Then the next 12 miles known as the contiguous zone. Now, so this is the next. First, let me talk to the phases. Take you through the phases, the phrases that they use for these particular waters. So, first 12 nautical miles is the territorial water, then the contiguous zone. Now, from the land, then you go 200 kilometers. Or from the contiguous zone, go for 176 kilometers. It's called economic. You have the exclusive economic zone. So now, if you see our rights are different from area to area. In the territorial waters, is same as that of the land, but in the other areas, it varies. Let's go to the next slide to see. Now, as I said, in the territorial waters, which is around 22 kilometers or 12 nautical miles beyond the coastline, covers about 21,500 square kilometers, which is almost 1/3 of our land mass. So, covers full sovereignty over the waters. Okay, so if you put the land and territorial water, suddenly we have become 65,000, which 65,000 is our land mass, square kilometers. And suddenly we have got another 1/3 extra. And, that suddenly all belongs to us. Now, why we are trying to take this through this session is to see the kind of resources that we have. And I'm actually taking up the sea around us, because we being an island, sea is right around us. And so I'm actually taking the sea as the resource that we have in abundance. Now, if you go to the next zone, okay, the first 12 kilometers, what we say is territorial waters, then you have the contiguous zone. Now, once you go there, okay, unlike the territorial water, the contiguous zone only gives resources to the state on the ocean surface and flow. Now, what is missing? Okay, always ocean, you have the surface, you have the column of water and the flow. Now, the middle part is missing here. You can see the surface is under us, the flow is under us, but not the column of water. So, and we also have when the flow comes, seabed, subsoil, all that one is come under us. But the column of water is not for us. So that is actually the contiguous zone. Now, then comes, you have the exclusive economic zone. Now, there, I told you, which is 200 kilometers from the land itself, or 200 kilometers. Once you see there, I mean, beyond that 24 kilometers, you can say, 24 nautical miles, you can say. Now, they are actually, what we have is surface of the sea. Now, you see, the resources, column of water has come in, seabed and subsurface is there. Surface of the water is taken out. We have no rights on the surface of water. In this zone, we have column of water is for us, seabed and subsurface is for us. So, in different areas, we have different rights. Okay, but in all, you got to say we have huge amount of resources with us. And this space which we finally see is 570,000 square kilometers. That's huge. Almost, okay, some touch and go 9 times of Sri Lanka. So land mass put together, suddenly we have become 10 times. Okay, so it's a kind of a large space resource that's available to us. Now, why we are talking about this resource? As engineers, we should to optimize the use of resources that are coming in. Later also, I will see some of the depleting resources. Now, so as we are engineers, we should understand the resources that are available. Of course, there are a lot of other factors has to come in, government policies, etc., has to come in. But we as engineers also should be aware of the extent of the resources that we have. Now, if you consider land surface is 65,000 square kilometers. Okay, we have a coastal line, absolutely wonderful, 1,340 kilometers of coastline, an enormous amount of coastal line. And then we have territorial waters, 25,500 square kilometers. Okay, and then if you put as exclusive economic zone, 570 square kilometers. Now, having said all that, and now that you understood this resources around our country, land mass is huge. But very sadly, the revenue coming from sea is only 2% of our GDP. Now, this is, I actually picked it up from the World Bank report. Okay. In Maldives, 35% of GDP and 72% of foreign exchange is related to sea or coastal line. Now, you can understand how they are using these resources. They are also islands, a number of some 1,200 islands together have formed that country. 35% of their GDP is from the water. It means water or coastal line. It means they have beaches, plus they are using the export. I think out of the 72% of the foreign exchange, 69 comes from tourism, which is, we can call it the sea and coastline. The balance is actually coming from food. I mean, I could say it is actually the fishing industry. So, in all, that country has made use of the sea around them to a greater extent, which we are not doing it at the moment. I actually took this one to draw the parallel of how much we are underutilizing the coastal line and the waters around us. We actually are thinking that we are a small country and not making use of this enormous resource that is actually available around us. Now, once, if, I mean, we talk about, we have to grow our economy, etc., etc. If that small country can go up to 35% of their GDP by using the resource of sea or coastal line, what if we double this one? Or to that matter, if you go up to 10% of our GDP, you can see the amount of change or amount of revenue that can come into our country. So this is sea or the coastal line around us is a huge potential and absolutely underutilized by us. Let it be, you can see many reasons for it. However, we are not utilizing the huge resource and the huge exclusive economic zone around us absolutely to a minimum point that we are utilizing. Okay, we probably utilizing for our food to some extent, and that's it. That also, I really don't know whether we are still importing fish in the can. So I don't think we are also even utilizing it to the full extent to feed us, leave alone the other revenues. So this is one area, as young engineers or the engineers who are coming up and going to take up some great positions somewhere down the line, should know that the coastal line and the sea is a enormous resource and absolutely underutilized by us. Now, this actually, I took a parallel. We are 65,000 square kilometers, and Afghanistan, we call it a very large country. If you see in a map, it's a very large country, and we are a small nation. Suddenly, if I put the sea resources around us, we are almost equal to that country. So we are large as much as them. In addition to that one, we have 1,300 kilometers of coastal line. They have 0. So you can understand the kind of or the level of resources that are available to us. So we cannot call ourselves a small country anymore, because a huge amount of water is also under us, and that resource is the resources in the water or the seabed is always available to us, and we who are not utilizing to the maximum potential. We probably tend to, the politician tend to say we are a farming country, agriculture-based country. So the word agriculture in their mind is about the crops in the land. I think the enormous resource that's around us is totally ignored, and you as engineers have to consider it and work towards it, so that the prosperity come to all when the development is done. Any questions before I move to the other area? So this is all about the maritime boundaries and the resources what we have. Any question that you would like to raise, maybe you can type it. Actually, even whatever you want to type, you type it, and I will take it up maybe once I finish all the slides. As I said, this is a relatively a kind of a very small area for discussion as a lesson, but you have to have a good amount of reading. So you may continue to write your question in the chat line, and let us take it. Or do you want me to pause for about 30 seconds to see if anybody writes anything, so that let me go to the next topic that I intend to take. So let me pause for 30 seconds to see if anybody want to write anything on the chat. All right, fine. Let me move to the next area that I intend to take up in this particular lesson. We are going to talk about some other resources. Okay, so why I put this slide is actually, before I move to the next one, the kind of resources that you need to consider in your reading. I have taken only the resources of what see around us, but I think there are loads of other resources that need to be going into your mind. I have just put here some of them. Some of them. As I said, your reading can take you to many other areas of what we have. Right. So this slide only related whether we have sunshine to many days of a year. We relatively have a cleaner air. Relatively, I mean, okay. And now and then we our level goes down, but we have a great diversity, biodiversity. When I say, I think it's the wrong spelling there. I said B, it's BIO, biodiversity. Of course, we have many rivers running around us. Okay, rocks and minerals, coastline, and we also have use international language widely used. So that is also one of our resources. Because many of the knowledges are in international languages, so we widely use one of the international languages, give us access to knowledge as well as a way to interact to rest of the world. So we have an advantage of using one of the international languages widely being used in Sri Lanka. These are some of the other resources that I have listed, but this list could be much larger. It's all about your reading, and of course I took an example of the coastal line and the enormous amount of sea around us. Just to open your eyes. Right, okay. The next topic that I want to take up is the history and ancient heritage. Now, why we talk about history and ancient heritage is that, Sri Lanka have gone through many phases over the centuries, and every phase has left a footprint on us. It's at times that change our language, the way we dress, what we eat, all kind of things are not constant. It's keep changing. So all the developments and the minds and what we have gone through have always left a footprint on us. So we as engineers, when we do development, we should be very mindful of history and ancient heritage. It's very important. Okay, you cannot. It's because you need a particular development. You cannot simply and take this history and ancient heritage out of your equation. That has to be considered as part of your development plan, or whatever you think that you are going to do. History and ancient heritage is a factor that need to be considered. So let's see, take some of them. Okay, Sri Lanka, the Balangoda man is actually known to be the first, okay, at least what we have got now is 38,000 years ago, lived in Sri Lanka. So it's the olden human remains that we have found, okay, some fossil, whatever we have found. So there have been humans living in this country for 38,000, at least for 38,000 years plus. Then we, in our records or in our history, we see the first establishment of the kingdom Tambapani in the 5th century BC. That is what is recorded we have. Then we have the Anuradhapura kingdom with Pandugabya coming in the 4th century. Then we have a major shift, the 3rd century BC, because one of our major religion in the country was, actually that was the entry of that particular religion in the 3rd century. So that actually create many other changes in our minds, in our systems. So that is one of our major entry in the country. Now, then we say, now one should understand, now historical recordings, okay, though, we had a kingdom starting from 4th century BC, whatever recordings we have, this is one of the oldest. However, the recordings have started only 3rd century AD, which is approximately 450 years after, even say, if I say the time of Arhat Mahinda coming to Sri Lanka, which is about 3rd century before BC, the recording starts, the chronicles, whether it's Mahavansa or Dipavansa or Chulavansa, these all started around 3rd century AD. It means the gap, if you see, it's around 450 years. We'll say, okay, in 26, it looks like, because in the 3rd century is 2 century plus is known as 3rd century. Here also 2nd century, 2nd century, after the 2nd century is known as 3rd century. So the gap can be considered as, we'll say, 400 years or 450 years. Now, if something is recorded after this many times, you will see the human factor coming in. Now, many of you would have seen, on the social media, a game they play, or as a kind of an exercise, especially in corporate communication. They will make about 25 people to stand in a queue, and for the last man, they will give a message, an act or a message, and they will ask them to, give it to the previous man in front. And they will see this act or the message from the person in front to see there will be a huge difference, and all of us can have a good laugh. That is how the information is lost from person to person. And that's what that game shows. Okay. Now, when these recordings, many of these recordings takes place 450 years ago, you can understand the loss of information, how much loss of information and the human factor coming into play. Now, I have a classic example for you. 2 weeks ago, or probably sometime last week, maybe 10 days ago, not so long ago, there was a major conference in the world in South Africa, the BRICS conference. And I was one day, or the second day maybe, I was watching the TV, and I was watching BBC about BRICS, the conference in South Africa. I also watched what they state about the conference. Now, I also have Russia TV in my, one of the channels, Russia TV. So I switched over to Russia TV and listened to the same conference presented by 2 different parties. I could see it is totally different information that's coming. This way, what I say is the human factor that comes in. The conference what took place is exactly the same. Reported by one institution is totally different from reported by other institution. Okay, as you all know, Russia TV, Russia is part of BRICS, so their coverage is totally different from what I heard from BBC. So in any of these matters, human input comes in. So there could be loads of human inputs apart from loss of information. So we should know this factor, okay, politicians will talk differently, but we as people who study science should know, okay, there are what is written is what is available, and the information loss over 450 years could be very huge amount. And then the human factor comes into play. Okay, if I present an information is different from you present an information, because the human factor comes in. So understand these factors when you consider them, the information what is there. So you should know to pick up, though they are very major influences in our life. We as people of intelligence should know, okay, this is probably the information, and there could be this much of loss of information, whatever. Taking it on any information as it is, should not be the way that we should go forward, because we should understand the fact, loss of information as well as a human factor when we take up any matter. All right, let's move to other factors. Then, of course, we have in between, we had the Indian kings ruling Sri Lanka. I think the what is significant was the Chola rule from 1993 to 2077 for about 78 or maybe how many 84 years. The rule was under, I think, just after colonial, if I am correct. Then, of course, we also see Sri Lanka being ruled by 181 monarchs from the time of Anuradhapura to Kandyan period. So all these events have their remains, the influences in our society. Let it be by anyone. But we as people who going into development should know, okay, there are many influences, and those remains are still with us. Then, of course, we had the European dominance from 1505, from the time Portuguese came in till the independence. Then, of course, it was at that time it was part of country, whether it was under Portuguese or under Dutch. Part of the country was under them. Part was under the Sri Lankan rulers. Then came 1815, the British took over the whole country. And from 1815 till our independence, we had the rulers we were under British. So there are influences all along in our society. Then also in between, there's something significant if you read actually how the Uva rebellion and Matha rebellion, one they were how to say it, defeated. For some of the communities, what happened? You see some of the communities being kind of, how to say it, excluded from the society for some reason because of the rebellion. So these are some of the things that happened, and you will see they all have some kind of influence in our society even today. Then, of course, 1948 independence. Then the other significant event that I could consider is 1972, we become a republic. So we went out of the monarchy altogether. Then the civil war from 70s, mid or late 70s to 2009. So that was significant. The effects of that one is still in our society, and you can see that. Then, of course, since late, you see the economic crisis of last year and the impact of that. So what happened is, why we take up all these, at least some of them, why I am mentioning is because you as an engineer, when you go in for a decision, these factors of these cultural heritage has to be looked at, because they have left their footprints in the society. You cannot take that out of the equation and go for your solution. It is important that it is considered and be part of your solution. Now, as I said, every period has left, it's not left, it's left its footprint. So let it be, or it left in the society around us, the language we speak, the dress code, the structural development, etc. Everything. Every period has left its footprint in our society. So development should not cause destruction and vandalism. That is what it is. Because you heard people, they are whatever is not important to is important to them. So it shouldn't, your development shouldn't be considered as vandalism for them. For you, it's development. If you, the moment you take our cultural heritage and history, it can be easily considered as vandalism. So be very mindful of history and cultural heritage in the equation of development. Now, with these the chronicles that I took comes the kind of laws in this country. We have different sectors have different laws. We have the Candian law. We have this available in the north. I don't know whether the east is also applicable, but I know it's in the north. There also was something called a Muslim law. I mean, I'm not an expert in those areas, but and then we have the Dutch Roman law. So these influences also left those ones. So one, when it comes to development, these are some of the other aspects one has to be mindful of. So so the history, culture, etc., are actually part of our society, and consider them in your equation when you go in for development. Any comments or questions that you would like to put in here before I take the next topic? Let me give another 30 seconds. Okay, since done, let's move to my other subtopic. I'm going to take up overexploitation of resources. Let me take one of the resources for the example. As I said, overexploitation of resources. As I said, resources are many, so you have to have a wider reading to gather knowledge on the subject. I will be taking up only one resource for this discussion. Now, let's take water resource of hill country. We also use this term upper watershed. We uses this term for upper watershed because that is the origin of our rivers in the hill. So we always see that as a major resource. Now, what has happened to our country? Okay, now our increase in habitat, our population started to grow. So our habitat, we started to expand. Now, when we start to expand, what we did, we start to destroy the vegetation. Okay, it may be that is for human habitation is one. Then came in increase in plantation sector. We started with under the English, they went in for plantation sector. So they destroyed the jungles and created the plantation sector. That was income for them. At that time, they earned the income. Very little was given to Sri Lanka. But anyway, fact remained, the increase of plantation took the green cover. Okay. Then we also, more people, we start to produce more food. Then that also made us to take up take up the jungles and take out the green cover for food crops. We also, so with that one, we start to decrease the forest cover in a big way. One is for live, then to increase the plantation, then the food crops. So all three reasons, we start to take out the forest cover. And it affects the upper watershed. Naturally, when the vegetation gone, okay, it affects the watershed because one is the rainfall, other one is the water goes down faster. It causes soil erosion, and also the other aspects like it reduces the forest cover animals and other conflicts. Those are second side. Let's talk about these water resources for this discussion. When you increase, take out the jungles, put plantations or start to build houses or maybe food crops, what happened? One, the rainfall. The second one, retaining the water. So it started to affect the upper watershed. And so that we are actually going to discuss the changes that has caused in that area. There is a chat. Let's see what it is. All right. Maybe I will take this question and discuss this. The question says, please explain what happened to the territorial water surface area once the port city is completely established. Okay, let's discuss. Okay. Fine. So let's discuss these water resources of the hill country at the moment. Or water, we call it the common word for this one is upper watershed. Upper watershed is the common word that we use for this, or the technical term used for this, the water resource of hill country. Right. Now, once we destroy all that, my cursor is not moving. All right. Now let's see one by one stage. First thing I told you is population. Now, population increase, this is how the population that has started to grow. And this is actually currently we are somewhere here. And according to the study, by 2038, we will come to the peak. We'll come to the peak. And after that one, the population of Sri Lanka going to decline. So maybe the changes that has taken place last year caused a lot of migration, they say. So this graph may be changed because this study was done in 2003. I think I have one more graph that was done last year maybe. So according to that study, the population going to peak in 2038 at somewhere around 23 million, and then it's going to decline. That's the study the study was in 2003 by Gunawardana. Now, this information also going to have impacts on us. If the population goes down, what happened to the development that we are doing? And certain sectors of, primary schools, etc., many other changes come in, but I'm not going to take them in this discussion. But I'm actually, because increase of population cause damage to the upper watershed because of the habitat. We start to build houses for living or businesses, whatever we started doing it and took the green cover. So anyway, I'm putting it for your information that how our population plans or the change is going to take place approximately. Right. Now, this was a study in 2000 or 2021. Actually, I see a small change here. Now, they think it's 2030, and I think it's going to be little before that one. Somewhere around 2036, looks to me, it's going to peak, and after that, it's going to dip. I think if the study is done today, I was told somewhere around over 250,000 people have migrated. So this migration not only take that number, this migration is of young people going to generate families. So this particular graph may change if the study is done in 2023 because of the huge number that are migrating out of or immigrating to other countries. So this is actually the information that I took on our population. So in any case, somewhere around 2038, at least the worst case scenario is, which is going to be not so far, only 15 years from now, we are going to peak, or even maybe 1 or 2 years before we are going to peak. And there's going to be a decline of population in Sri Lanka. As I said, these graphs may change if studied now, if a new study is taken place. So any plan you see, we are going on expanding on housing, many other aspects. Think what changes this going to do it. This is actually out of this particular discussion, but I'm just wanting you to know. Right. This is the population growth. Again, Gunawardhan study. We are somewhere here now. I mean, you can see at one level it is going to go negative. So somewhere here it's going to start going into negative. So that's the time of declines. It's going to be somewhere 2038 onwards. It's going to go negative. So the population going to, this is actually the growth rate. So growth rate is going to be some zero that year. After that one, going to go down. Now, now let's see the population density and forest cover. What has happened to our forest cover and what is happening now? Now, you could see the forest cover in 1881 to somewhere around this year now. I think this is actually 2003 study where it has gone. Population has gone up and the forest cover has come down a lot. I think we are hovering even below 30% now. This is, I think, 2003 study, but I think we went up a little bit because of the reforestation. We have gone up a little bit, but in any case, we are below 30%. So forest cover is extremely low for us in Sri Lanka now. Now, okay, can you see this somewhere here? There is an upward curve, and what happened to my cursor? I don't see my cursor. Okay, sorry. So there is a upward curve because of the replantation that they have gone in. But as I said, this continue to decline. So the forest cover is extremely bad. Now here there is below. I have put some of the countries. We think the development will take the forest cover. I mean, a lot of people can argue. Okay. You can see below that in the slide, Germany is an industrialized nation, have 32.7% is forest cover, much higher than us. Italy is 32.1, much higher. Luxembourg is 36%. Korea, Japan, I don't even want to, compare it because they are more than double of our forest cover. So if you see, even a highly populated Singapore is 22% is forest cover. So we have a extremely large space compared to our population. I think the Singapore population is around 4.5 million, but the land mass is about 1/8 of us. But still, they are having 22% of their forest cover. But we think development is causing taking the forest cover, which is absolute wrong. We failed to preserve. We didn't know the value of the forest cover. So our policies were not incorrectly placed. So we started to destruct the way we wanted. Actually speaking, if we have been careful enough, we should be somewhere in the range of 45 to 50% if we have been very careful enough in this forest cover. Because the kind of development, we are not very industrialized nation. And, so we are not, our farmlands are so limited, and we are mostly importing still of many of our products. So I think we have really taken out this forest cover unnecessarily. The planning on our part has absolutely gone wrong. Absolutely gone wrong. So you as engineers are into development. You should know the importance of forest cover and how the forest cover can be preserved. Now let's see. Now this is actually the west zone in the central, which is actually the green one. How less the forest cover you can understand. Now this is where we call the watershed, upper watershed is that green area, and how little it has become. Hardly anything. Probably the dry zone in the north has more cover. That may be because of the war that we did not cut. Otherwise, we would have eaten that too. So we have done extreme damage to the forest cover. And that is absolutely causing damage to our watershed. Because all our rivers are originating from the hill country. When we take out the forest cover up in the hill country, what happened? It affects our water resource. So you can see how little forest cover we actually have now. This is the hill country rainforest cover. You could see how little it is. Okay, these are how much we have damaged it. So if we end up with no water coming down our rivers, we actually have caused the down. We have caused we are the main cause, because our planning was so bad, and we have done a big damage to our upper watershed. Actually, the degradation of watershed resources began with the large-scale clearing of central highlands for plantation crops in the latter part of 19th century. Removal of forest cover and associated soil erosion were the main problem identified far back in 1873. See, they identified the problem, but they too, Europeans too, or English, did not do much either. They continue the destruction. Soil erosion, they understood somewhere in 1927, they understood the soil erosion, the problem of soil erosion. Then it is physically visible, because so it can be easily understood, and cause of destruction to property, also lives. Okay. So the English established the Land Development Ordinance in 1935. So almost about a century after they started the destruction, they brought in a Land Development Ordinance in 1935. The Soil Conservation Act was introduced in 1951. But then again, we have a problem in this country. Any ordinance or any conservation act is there on the paper. Implementation is sometimes not even 50%. So we have to move very much faster there if we are going to save this upper watershed. Now, the 1970 first holistic broad-based watershed management project was implemented. I think it was by funded by World Bank at that time. 1989, 1998, in that 10 years or 9 years, forestry land use mapping project was done. The National Environment Act of 47 was enacted in 1980. So you can understand how late we are. But by 1980, we have eaten the best part of forest, but we get up very late. As I said, sometimes we bring in an act, but then don't go to implement that for a long time. At least on paper, implementation of environmental legislation provides umbrella cover for environmental protection within the country. Reforestation from 15 hectares in 1993 up to 46,000 hectares in 1998. So this is actually in the previous curves you saw some of the upwards movement. These are some of the reforestation that we started. But I honestly do not know whether this reforestation was done in the hill country. I mean in the watershed. I have seen a lot of reforestation being done in the dry zone towards Anuradhapura, even beyond Anuradhapura. I have seen reforestation, but I have no information. I have not gone into the study to find out whether upper watershed, the reforestation took place actually in the hill country to preserve the upper watershed. I honestly don't know. I think you can search for that information to find how much we have gone into the repair of that part of it. As engineers, engineering solutions have always had a major impact on society. In some cases, impact has been clearly positive. Okay, now we are engineers understanding the resources, understanding the cultural heritages, and the depleting resources, because all those has to be part of our equation when we go into solutions for a problem. When we look at solutions that we have found for the mankind, in some cases, the solution impact have been clearly positive, such in the case of house appliances and water purification. Okay, so some of those have been very positive. We see the benefits are reasonably positive. Okay, but in some cases, impact of engineering products have been both positive and negative. In the case of automobiles give us positive and negative impacts. Okay, environmental is negative, but for the comfort, time for communication, it's easier. So they have been negative and positive. Okay, yet in some cases more negative, such as bombs, etc. That is also engineering innovations, but happen to be much more negative than positive. So as engineers, our inventions have how to say outcome of definitely will be negative and positive. Sometimes more positive, sometimes more negative, sometimes they are balanced. But include all what we discussed earlier in the equation when you're going for a solution. Um, in many cases where the engineers constrained with limited view of the situation, not aware of or could not possibly imagine the impact their product would later have on the society as a whole. Now, CFC is one such innovation. For refrigeration, we started to use CFC many years ago, and you can understand the negative impact because at that time, people did not go into the total aspect of it. I mean, that was one of the other, how could say? So CFC is one major, and the other one is the lead. When they started the combustion engines, how they used lead for to mix lead with the fuel, and the negative side of that one was much later understood. Then the country started to ban lead in the fuel because initially it was thought it actually a major innovation, adding lead to the fuel. But later they found out the negative side of that one is immense. So some of these engineering solutions, when we find, we do not go for a holistic approach. We look at one side, one part of the impact, and then to see the negative impact is absolutely large because we fail to look at that one fully. um, so it is paramount that engineers to have a solid understanding of the impacts of their product locally as well as globally. So they can make a sound evaluation of pros and cons. Okay. Once you understand the impacts, then you can actually analyze the pros and cons of that particular product or the innovation or your solution. So engineers need to work as part of teams, communicate well, and understand the economics, social, environmental, and international context of their professional activities. Because once you take any of them out, you will see the outcome is damaging sometimes, or the negative impact become larger. That's basically I'm going to discuss. Let me go back to that question that we spoke about. Sorry, where did I go? Have I exited? Hello? Ooh, did I exit? Sorry. Let's see that question one more time. The question. Okay, about the, I think I don't know. I don't find that question here. Okay, the question was raised. What would it be from if we um, once the port city come in, what would be our maritime boundaries? Actually, maritime boundaries, as I said, was established by an act, 1 second, somewhere in 1982. So Sri Lanka having a 3 kilometer change in its borderline, what we have done is we have done within our territorial waters. So we have a 12 nautical miles. We have a sovereignty over that 12 nautical miles, so which is 22 kilometers. So within four meters, we changing our coastal line does not mean anything actually. It continues to be our. What we have done is we have extended our coastal line, but by extending it, they were not going to change the 1982 the convention. Based on that one only, our boundary lines were set up earlier. So because we are changing our coastal line by adding some landmass, not going to do any changes, I guess so. Because maybe somebody with the international law can, or on the subject who is with the law can help me on this. But there are many countries who have gone in for this kind of arrangement, because there are countries who have reclaimed land from the sea and put up even airports, etc. So these reclaiming land from the sea has been happening in many parts of the world. So we have done in a small way the port city, but I guess the international law will be applicable from what it was established in 1982. So we changing our coastal line as long as it's within 12 nautical miles, it will be still under our jurisdiction, so that we can change anything. But I guess from the 1982 line where we had the coastal line will be considered as our territorial water. But I think, as I said, I'm not an expert in international maritime law, so perhaps if you do some reading, you will be able to understand more in that one. Is there any other messages? Okay, that's explain what happened to the territorial waters. Okay, that is probably the message that came in. Any more questions on discussion? The question here on this particular subject that we had today probably could become part of a question sometime, unlikely to become a one full question, but still anyway, it's up to the examiners to that. Any more questions or anything that you want me to repeat on these subjects that we discussed? Once. I think this forest cover change, whatever we discussed, this particular forest cover is actually very critical. If you see, because I happen to have some association with that committee that was established in long ago to do this upper watershed management. I had an association with them not because of engineering aspect, on a friendly basis, and they used to tell me at that time. At that time, me taking up a lecture wasn't there at that time. Probably it was around 15 years ago or 20 years ago, and they were telling the kind of problem that we are getting in, and they were kind of telling me, if we fail to look into this one now, we will have absolute negative impact, years to come. I don't know whether we have already got in there, but I think the cover, the pictures show absolutely damage that we have done to our environment in a big way. Yeah. So if there aren't any questions, let me close this lecture. So thank you for taking part, and I wish you good luck. I hope the exams are coming soon. I wish you good luck. Thank you.